Hello, welcome to another War Thunder video, and today we're going to be looking at the Swedish and the Finnish guns, finally, the last video in this series. We're going to start off with the Swedes, and then we're going to do the Finns, because the Finns do have their own set of guns, but we're going to do them last. We're going to do the Finns first here. Or the Swedes first here. So, for starters, we have the Ksp M22 machine gun. There's technically two of these. There's the FH and the FV. I don't know what the difference is, aside from what side of the airplane that they're mounted on, I guess. I guess FV is on the left side, FH is on the right. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Regardless, they're identical in function. 1200 round a minute rate of fire, as you saw there. The ammo loads for these guns is 500 rounds, period, across the board. And they are mounted on the B-17, the J6, the J8, the J9, and the J22a. So fairly ubiquitous throughout the Swedish tech tree, at least from tiers 1 and 2. As far as the belts go, default is half tracer, half AP. Uni is tracer, AP, 2 incendiary. Tracers is tracer, AP, and 2 tracers. Stealth is 2 AP, 2 incendiary. AP is 1 AP, 1 tracer, and 2 AP. So basically the opposite of the tracer belt. And then you have air, which is tracer, 2 incendiary, and an AP. As for what to load, air, probably just armored targets is really the best option. The 8mm are actually surprisingly effective, despite being such a small caliber round. Aside from armored targets, I would say probably stealth would be a good idea, but I would probably just recommend running armored targets. As far as the ballistics go here, the AP is moving at 750 meters per second, which is pretty good, and the tracer is moving a little bit quicker at 810. However, that's really not going to matter. Although, there you go, as the stealth AP is also moving at 810, and then the incendiary, in case you decide to load stealth, is 835. So, yeah, fairly flat shooting gun, which is fairly nice. Yeah, not really anything remarkable to say about this gun, so let's go ahead and go on to the demonstration. Alright, so here we go with the Swedish 8mm, the Ksp M22s. As far as 30 cals go, these are actually fairly decent. They could be better, they could be a lot worse, however. Their effectiveness is limited by the fact that you are only ever going to get 2 of them. Kind of the same as with the Italians, you kind of do want that extra ammo. Or rather that extra pair of guns. That is really going to help you a lot. However, they can pull their own weight surprisingly well. I would not underestimate these guns. You do have a decent ammo load with them, which is fairly nice, or at least an average ammo load. The ballistics are fairly decent, the rate of fire is fairly decent, the damage is fairly decent. The only real limiting factor is just that you only have 2 of them generally. But, you know, combined with the 13.2s, at least on the J22a here, they're more than adequate. So, yeah, I think they're fairly decent guns, but they're just overshadowed by the 13.2s. Alright, so we have 3 50 kills to look at in this tech tree, or at least in the Swedish side of this tech tree. However, before we go over the one that everyone knows and either loves or hates, depending on your personal viewpoint on the matter, we're going to have to look at some crap. So we're going to start off with the 12.7mm Akan M40, which is basically just a copy of the Italian Beretta 12.7 with some absolutely garbage belts. So since it is basically a copy of the Beretta 12.7, it does have 700 round a minute rate of fire, which is goddamn awful. It is only on the two copy-paste Italian planes, the J11, which is the CR42 Falco, and the J20, which is the RE2000. The ammo loads are the same as what they are in their Italian counterparts, 450 on the Falco and 300 on the RE2000. Or 300 on the RE2000. As for the belts, they are all awful. Default is Tracer, Ball, Incendiary, AP. Uni is Incendiary, AP, Incendiary, Tracer. Air is 2 Incendiary, AP, and a Tracer. Tracers is all Tracers. And Stealth is 2 AP and an Incendiary. As for what to load, honestly, all of these belts suck. I just load Stealth because it seems to be the best one for me, personally. Yeah, I would honestly just say load Stealth. All of these belts suck. All of these rounds suck. All of these belts suck. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. As for the ballistics, they are pretty bad for a machine gun. 760 meters per second. For the Tracer, well, actually 760 across the board, which is, I think, let me see real quick. I think it's actually a little bit lower than the 50 cal. I know it's the same as the Italians, yeah, which makes sense, given that it is the same ammunition, or at least the same gun. So yeah, before I harp on too much about how bad this gun is, let's go ahead and show you what it looks like in practice so I can do it there instead. Alright, so the Akan M40 is the Swedish copy-paste of the Italian 50 cal. There's really no way to sugarcoat these things, they just suck. They do feel better than they did about this time last year, however, better does not mean good. When I say they feel better, I mean they actually do something, unlike what they did about a year ago. They do cause fires, as you can see, fairly well. They can get structural kills, however, the Italians are better overall. There's really nothing good about these guns, aside from, well, maybe the ammo loads, but even then, not really, because of how much damage you're pumping out. 300 rounds for what damage you're pumping out on the J20 here is not sufficient. 450 on the J11, at least against biplanes, should do you at least a little bit better, but still not really all that fantastic. The belts suck, the ballistics are worse, the rate of fire is garbage. Yeah, there's really nothing good about these guns at all. As you can see, even just the humble P40 here takes a lot of time on target in order to kill, far more time than it would with the Italians. Of course, Italians can sometimes be a little bit unreliable, however, they are still better than these. So my general advice is to not fly the J11 or the J20 and just save yourself the pain. Alright, now for another gun that is basically a copy-paste, at least in terms of the, well, almost in terms of function and form, the Akan M45, which is a riff of the American M2 Browning. As far as the rate of fire goes, it is a little bit higher than the Americans. It's 770 instead of 750. Is that really going to make a difference? No, it's just going to mean that you're going to chew through your ammo a little bit quicker. It's only on, at least in terms of tier 4, it's only on, or tiers 1 through 4, it is only on the J26s, the Tech Tree one, and the David. On the David, you're going to have, let's see, I don't actually own the thing, so I do have to fiddle around here. 350 and 280, 350 on the inboard, 280 on the outboard, and the J26 is going to be the same as a P51D, so 500 and 270 on the two outboards. The J26 is a copy-paste of the, what is it, the P51D20, I think, and the J26 David is a copy-paste of the P51C. The big difference, however, is going to be in the ammo, or rather the belts. So the default belt is Tracer, 2 AP, and an Incendiary. Uni is 2 API, a Tracer, and an Incendiary. Ground is Tracer, Incendiary to AP. Tracers is all Tracers, and Stealth is API and Incendiary. As for what to load, honestly, I just load Uni. All of these belts suck. They just kind of suck universally. It doesn't really matter what you use. The ballistics are going to be the exact same as their American counterparts, so that is fairly nice. However, the incendiary round in the Unibelt has an velocity of 1040 meters per second, which is a little bit ludicrous. However, it doesn't matter because, yeah, all of these belts suck. So, and you don't really have any API, so yeah, let me just show you what these guns actually do. Alright, so the Akan M45 50 caliber machine guns are basically just the Swedish clones of the American Brownings. Well, as far as the ballistics and the rate of fire goes, they're basically the same as the US 50 cals. As far as the damage goes, they're a little bit underwhelming. Of course, Gaijin has kind of done something to the American 50s. I don't really know what exactly, but these things feel a lot more powerful than they used to, and, well, it definitely helps these guns out a significant amount. However, they are still worse than the Americans just simply because they don't have any API in them, or at least to the extent that they do, it's not really enough. So yeah, these guns are not really the greatest in the world, and you are definitely going to feel it if you go to the J26 or from the American tech tree. Just not having that instant fire capability with every shot that you fire is definitely going to come back and bite you more often than you would think. So yeah, I mean, they do work thanks to Gaijin's buffs, but they're still not really that great. They're not the greatest belts in the game by far. Alright, so we're moving through this a little bit quick, and next is going to be the 13.2mm Akan M39a. So this is the gun that everybody knows and either loves or hates, depending on where you stand on the Swedish tech tree. For starters, you have a rate of fire of 1080 rounds per minute across the board, which is pretty nice, especially for a 50 caliber machine gun. You're going to get this gun on the J22s, the J21, the B18, the T18, and the J9. As far as ammo loads, the J22s are going to have 250 rounds. The J21s have 325 in the wings, as you can see here, and 350 in the nose. The J9 has 240 rounds. The T18, I think, has 300 rounds, as you can see there, in the 113mm in the front. And I think that is the same for all three of them. Yeah, so the B18A and the B all have 300 rounds, as does the T18B. So both T18s have 300 rounds for their 113mm gun, which is fairly nice. However, of course, do remember that it is only one gun. As far as the belts, let me actually pick the J21. Default is HEFT AP, half AP, or half AP, half HE. Ground is HE and 3 AP. Air is 2 HE, 1 AP, 1 HE. Stealth is all AP. As far as what to want to load, I think it should be fairly obvious that you should load air, at least if you're going after planes. The AP round is moving at 810 meters per second. Does have a pretty decent amount of penetration for a 50 caliber round. However, what we are more interested in is this one. Your HE round is moving at 900 meters per second, which is pretty quick, and it has 3.5 grams of TNT for the explosive filler. Combine that with a well, 1,000 round a minute rate of fire for a 50 caliber machine gun, and you can see why this gun just absolutely shreds through damn near everything. It really doesn't matter what belts you run on this plane. You're kind of have the same result regardless of what you run. You just want to run air just because it has HE rather than us being a solid slug. Anyway, let's go ahead and show you what this gun does in practice. Alright, so the Akan M39a. This is a, frankly, set of very stupid guns. Well, there's a P47 ramming another J21, but yeah. These guns are why everyone either loves or hates the Swedish tech trade, depending on your personal preference. Despite the fact that, personally, the planes are kind of terrible, but I'll leave that aside for a minute. So yeah, the ballistics are fantastic. The rate of fire is just absolutely stellar. The damage is dumb as all hell. The ammo loads is fairly decent as well. Over 300 rounds per gun for, well, aside from the the J22s, which have 125, which is a little bit on the low side for machine gun standards. However, the J21s, of course, like I said, have 300 or more, which is very, very good. And also the B-18s and the T-18s have 300 or more, which is very, very good. So yeah. Really not a whole lot I can say about these guns, aside from just really how stupid they are. The velocity is amazing. The damage is just stupid. It's just kind of a shame that most of the planes that they're mounted on are not really the greatest in the world. So enjoy watching the pretty explosions, and I'll meet you back in the hangar. Alright, so now for the two 20mm in the Swedish tech tree. I'm only going to do a demonstration on one of them because they're functionally identical. The only difference is going to be the rate of fire. So we have the Akan M41 and the M45. The M41 is going to have a rate of fire of 630 rounds per minute, as you can see right there, where the M45 has a rate of fire of 720, so almost 100 rounds a minute faster. However, it's really not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. The M41 is going to be on the T-18s and the J21A1. So the first is the J21s as well as the two T-18Bs. So yeah, not a very common gun within this tech tray. However, you're not really going to bother with that too much, as we'll see in a minute. The M45 is going to be on the J21A2 and the A21A3, and then you're going to get it on some jets, but we don't care about that for this video. Ammo loads: the T-18 has 60 rounds per gun, the J21s have 140. So yeah, fairly simple and straightforward in that regard. As far as the belts, the default belt is half HE, half AP. Ground is 3 HP and 1 HE. Air is 3 HE and 1 AP. What you should load, default. HEFT is in the default, and then HEFIT in the air. And the reason why we load default, well, let's go ahead and look at the stats of these rounds real quick. So, the HEFIT has a velocity of 845 meters per second. However, it only has 6 grams of TNT, which is not very good. The AP is moving at the same velocity as is the HEFT, and if you do want to use this thing against ground targets, this gun is actually fairly good for it, as you can see by the pen tables right there. The HEFT has the same explosive mass as the HEFIT, however, it uses a different explosive, so we have a TNT equivalent of 10.2. Given the BR that this plane is, that these guns are found at, it's not very good. You can, as you can see, you can get kills with this gun. However, given that the best belt that you should be running is half AP, you definitely could do a lot better. But regardless, let's go ahead and look at it in practice. Alright, so the Akan M41 and the M55, or the M45 20mm cannons. Yeah, these guns aren't really the greatest in the world. The velocity is fairly decent, the rate of fire is fairly decent, the ammo load, at least on the J21, is fairly decent. On the T18 it isn't, but on the J21 it is. Really just the killing blow for this thing is just the fact that you don't really have a whole lot of HE filler in any of the rounds. I really do think that the best belt is going to just be default. Yeah, you have 3 more HE rounds with the air target belt, but I really don't think that you're going to gain much in the way of effective damage between that and the default. Just having some lower HE filler, it's just going to be the same overall. So. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that this gun is as bad as it is. I mean, it can do work. It's just not as reliable as the 13 mils, and really, it's just, if you're flying the J21, that's really what you should just be. It should be focusing on is forget about the 20. Just use the 13s because that's how stupid the 13 mils are. So yeah. Nothing else I can really think to add, so see you back in the hangar. Alright, so now for the last of the Swedish guns, and we're not going to do a demonstration on this one because, well, it's a 57mm gun. This is the Akan M47 57mm gun. It's only found on the T18B57, as you see here. It has a rate of fire of 180 rounds per minute, which is fairly good for a gun of this caliber. And it has 41 rounds in the drum magazine, which is fairly good as well. I don't have the belt upgrade on this thing, let alone the damn thing spaded, so yeah, the belts are going to be a little bit janky here. However, your default belt is 2 HE, 1 AP, your ground is all APT, and it's a solid slug, and your air is all HE. So your AP is moving at 700 meters per second with a pretty decent pen. Your air is moving at the same velocity with 240 grams of TNT. So yeah, this is a fairly devastating gun when it hits, and it's on a fairly decent platform for it as well. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the fins. Alright, so now we go on to the first of the Finnish guns, and we're going to start with the 7.7mm FN Browning M36 No. 3 machine gun. This has a rate of fire of 1600 rounds a minute, which is absolutely stupid for a 30 caliber machine gun. However, it's only on 2 planes, the Fokker D21 and the Fokker D21-3, the D3 being in the tech tree, the standard D21 being the premium. So, ammo loads, as you kind of saw there, the nose has 500 rounds per gun. However, on the tech tree D21, so the Fokker D21-3, you have 300 rounds in the wings. So you are going to go through your ammo in this thing fairly quickly, and you don't have a lot to spare, unfortunately. However, you do have 1600 rounds a minute, and you have British 7.7mm ammunition, which means you load stealth in this thing and you don't look back, or you load tracers if you want to. I load stealth, and then you just buzzsaw your way through just about everything. So let's go ahead and show you what this gun looks like in practice real quick. Alright, so the 7.7mm Browning M36 machine guns, these are just completely and utterly stupid. Definitely a candidate for some of the best 30 caliber machine guns in the game, in my opinion. Alongside the Ksp and the MG17s, at least at the earlier tiers. The one limiting factor for these guns is just going to be the ammo load. That 1600 round a minute rate of fire is absolutely amazing, as are the belts with all of the API in them. However, you are going to run through that ammo very quickly, having only 500 rounds or 300 rounds, depending on where the guns are placed. For that shortcoming, they are still going to do fairly decent damage, and they are going to definitely save your ass in the Fokker. Just do keep an eye on your ammo counter. Alright, and now we get on to probably my favorite gun in this entire tech tree, the LKK 42 12.7mm machine gun. I personally am not a big fan of the Swedish 37, of the Swedish 30 cal, or Swedish 50 cal rather, the Swedish 13mm. Instead, I personally absolutely adore this gun, especially given the planes that it's mounted on. So it's only mounted on 3 planes in the entire game. The B239, so the Finnish Buffalo, the Purr, you see here, and the Mörska, which is the Tier 2 event plane from goddamn near 3 years ago almost at this point. Jesus. The rate of fire is 1,100 rounds a minute, which for a 50 cal is absolutely ridiculous. And the belts, well, the belts don't look all that impressive, but they are actually fairly decent given the rate of fire. So, default is APT, AP, and incendiary. Uni is 2 APT and an incendiary. Ground is half APT, half APT, half AP. Basically, it's just all AP. Air targets is 1 APT and 3 incendiary. Tracers is all APT, and stealth is half AP, half incendiary. As for what to load, tracers or ground, depending on your personal preference. I personally load ground just so I don't have a massive laser beam coming out of my plane, but that is entirely up to your personal preference. As for the ballistics, well, I'll just go in here. The AP is moving at, we'll call it 800 meters per second, as is the APT, as is the incendiary. So ballistics are fairly simple and straightforward there. So, not really much else to say about this gun. Let's go ahead and show you what it looks like in game. Alright, so the LKK 42 50 caliber machine guns. These are my candidate for some of the best 50 cals in the game, alongside the Type 3 13.2, the Akan M39s, and the German MG131s. These guns are absolutely phenomenal. The rate of fire is fantastic. The ammo load is amazing for at least nose-mounted 50 cals. You have 2 of them, or 4 in the case of the Buffalo and the Mörska. In the Purr, as you can see right here, you have 600, same as the BF109G 6, 10, 14, and K4, alongside, of course, the infamous MG151. Even just having 2 of these guns is absolutely amazing. They will just completely shred most of the fighters that you're going to come across. They will also shred bombers, and despite having only solid AP, they will tear pretty much everything apart with relative impunity, as well as setting fires just as well as American 50 cals, as you can see right here. Overall, these are just some of the best guns that you can get, really, in the game, and it is honestly kind of sad that you can only get them on one plane in the entire tech tree, on one tech tree plane in the entire game. Of course, that being the B239 in the Finnish tech tree, not even the Swedish one. And the only other ones being 2 premiums, one of which is an event plane that you can't even get anymore. Of course, the velocity is fairly similar to the MG151, so you can run stealth in the 20 and do perfectly fine. But yeah, these guns are amazing. I love them so much. Alright, sticking with the Fokker D21, the premium one specifically, we have the Oerlikon FF 20mm cannon. This is the only 20mm unique to the Finns, and it has a rate of fire of 468 rounds per minute, which is fairly slow. However, given that you only have 60 rounds per gun, it is totally adequate. The belts are the exact same as the Hispano 404, so you load stealth or default depending on your preference. I personally load stealth. Not going to go into the ballistics here because they are like the 30 cals prior, exactly the same as the Hispano 404. So, on to the demonstration. Alright, so the Oerlikon FF 20mm cannon. Well, being the gun that most of the other guns in game are, at least some of the earlier guns in game are based on, how does it perform? Well, in comparison to the Type 99 Mod 1, it's definitely better in terms of its velocity, in terms of its ballistics. Of course, in terms of stopping power, the Type 99 is better, but that is hardly anything negative against this gun. It's better than the MG FF, but that again isn't saying much because the MG FF is complete trash. It's better than the Hispano 404 because while it is basically the same gun in terms of the belts and in terms of the ammunition it's firing, it has 300 round a minute lower rate of fire, damn near, which means that you can drag out what limited ammo you have over a much longer period of time, which, in my opinion, at least for this tier, is very beneficial, considering you are one of the few planes at the tier that has 20mm cannons. So, while you can, of course it is a Hispano, so you do still have the one SAP round and the one AP round that will let you down on occasion. However, with how low of a rate of fire you have, and with how maneuverable this plane is, being that you can just turn inside of somebody, I think it works really well. You can follow up very quickly with a couple of bursts and blast whatever you're shooting apart. So overall, I think it's a good gun, but do remember it is still a Hispano. So that's the end of this video and also the end of the series. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this informative. Sorry that all of the videos took so long, but hey, there's a lot of information going through this stuff. So yeah. But yeah, hope you found this helpful. Hope you found it informative, and have a good one.